Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Raqs Savoir-Faire. So, lately this week, I have been thinking about, I'm in the middle of writing my second book. And if you read my first book, Raqs to Riches, you'll know that the first book was mostly about topics that my students ask me a lot, tips and tricks, questions, how to get started. But it was mostly angled towards how do I advance as a belly dancer, and Raqs to Riches was the kind of starter guidebook for that. So my second book, which hopefully I will finish one day, inshallah, is about artistic burnout, which, let's be honest, it happens to all of us as creatives, but especially for belly dancers, we find ourselves in pretty strange, situations, especially as we advance, especially as we are continuing to be professionals and you're going through the rigmarole of, trying to get gigs and marketing and all of the other things that we do. And one of the things that I've been thinking on lately is the entrapment of always being busy. Always being busy. It's really no secret to anybody, especially any professional performers, but belly dancers especially. We have this community of how do I say this? It's really a mix of academia, staying relevant, and looking good while doing it. And this week, I was talking to my mentor, Aziza of Montreal, about how unfair that seems to be at times because we live in an ever increasingly harsh world. There's so much to do. Our personal lives, our professional lives, our dance lives. You're trying to practice, you're trying to get yourself out there, get your name known, get your rehearsals in, make sure your costumes fit right, and all of the things that go with being a gigging or a teaching dancer, or even just someone who's performing in showcases, no matter what it is that you do. But our community has evolved to pretty much demand a really strong social media presence and this kind of involvement in all kinds of things. So you have all of these irons in the fire at any given time. Instead of prioritizing being creative, being an artist, being a dancer, being a teacher, even, is that you have to have this website, newsletters, a mailing list. I started a podcast, your YouTube channel. Every social media now has all of these different facets to it to consider, and all these different apps and all these different platforms. And it's a lot. It's overwhelming. It's absolutely overwhelming. And for the past year, myself personally, I was really struggling with burnout, which is what inspired me to start writing the book. So ironically, I was writing about burnout while I'm in burnout, but it seemed like the perfect time to do it because I was actively trying to recover from that. And I started prioritizing my mental health and my rest. And if I didn't feel like practicing, I didn't. If I did, then I did. If I felt like adding something to my plate, like a newsletter, then I did. If I didn't, and the thought of it was giving me hives, I didn't. And all of this sounds all well and good, and it's what most mental health professionals would recommend to literally anyone. And in fact, we're having more and more conversations about the science of anxiety and professional burnout and the weaponized incompetence of partners, of women having to shoulder most of the burden in the household in terms of doing a career and coming home and taking care of it, that we're having more of these really awesome, intelligent conversations about rest and prioritizing rest and sleep and hashtag self-care and how idleness is not the enemy and multitasking really doesn't work as well as we think it does. And yet when it came to my dance life, my professional performance life, the more I prioritized my mental health and my rest, the more it became apparent that I wasn't going to be able to stay relevant. Getting hired for workshops, getting hired or asked or invited to participate in things that are going to get your name out there, that are going to keep you in people's minds, keep your name circulating in the community. Well, it's a numbers game. And a lot of it has to do with your social media pull, how well people know you, if you're a recognizable name, which is why you tend to see the same people over and over and over again, with some differences, of course. But, for the most part, they're not completely unknown, new people in the global atmosphere or in a regional atmosphere when it comes to festivals, online events, packages, things like that. Because anybody who is organizing these things needs to know that the event or the product that they are promoting is going to be attended. And people attend with people that they know. They know what they're offering. They know what they're about. They know if they like them already. It makes perfect sense. I'm not knocking it. But here's where we get into trouble as a community. When people have a family, they have a regular job, they do not have the resources, sometimes the money, to be able to upkeep the amount of work that it takes to maintain that kind of online presence through all of these different apps and all of these different platforms, and as everyone knows, the continuous work that it takes to create content. That starts to become unfair. And especially if it's at the sake of your mental health, your need to take a break, that's when it gets really, really hard, in my personal opinion, which is what I've been personally dealing with. Let's be honest. I needed a break. I needed to make sure that I was not going down, like a downward spiral. And then I realized that I wasn't as out there as I had been before with my social media presence. So I had actually lost opportunities. And I thought to myself, well, that's just unfair. That is unfair. So what do we do about it? What's the point of what I'm saying here? It's all well and good to sit here and say, like, hire a social media manager or have someone help you with it. Not everybody can do that. Of course you can. And there are many wonderful companies and people within our community too that can actually help with social media management. But if you do not have the funds or the ability to hire someone, my strongest piece of advice is this, and this is kind of a sneak peek into one of the chapters of the book whenever it comes out, is that you have to determine which social media platforms you're going to be able to stick with. It feels like these social media platforms or the functions that are within them, they're popping up like daisies. They're just coming out. Like Instagram just got threads, and there's reels and stories, and there's so many different functions. Pick the ones that it seems like people respond to the most with you individually, and consistently just use those, at least to start with. How do you know which ones are working for you? Pull your analytics or have someone help you pull your analytics. I know I just said maybe you can't have someone help you, but that's actually a free thing that you can do, is to go into your profile and pull the analytics. If it seems like posting videos gets you a lot of traffic, then keep posting videos. If it seems like more people view your stories than really care about your posts, then focus your effort on your stories. Because I guarantee trying to post all the time on every single platform is a quick way to end up in burnout. And that's what we want to avoid. So I hope this helps.